Hello to all the listeners. My name is Dylan,
And I'm Dylan.
and we would like to thank you for taking the time to give us a listen. And if you do enjoy, please drop a like and subscribe for our weekly podcast, or even check out the clips that we post from each show.
You can also follow us at our Twitter on screen and then tune in each week Wednesday night for our weekly podcast streaming at DatDill on Twitch.
Thank you, and enjoy the podcast. Let's start with obviously, the national championship. Go there first because that was, I don't know, it was a little underwhelming. I felt like
Yeah,
it
massively.
was, and it's not anything to take away from Baylor. I want to put that out there. Like, I don't think that it was boring because that like the teams were good or whatever. Like Gonzaga, it's just one of those things where like, and it always happens in the tournament where when a team comes off of like a huge win against like another team, and it's like emotional and everything, and it's so intense and all that. Sometimes it just happens where like the team is just drained. It's just you put everything into the previous game. You won it in overtime on a game-winning shot. It was wild. It was hyped. Everybody was excited. And then you go to the next game and you just don't have it emotionally because you put everything in the previous game. And that's kind of unfortunately what it felt like going into this national championship. Is just watching it kind of felt like Gonzaga was really just kind of drained the whole game, like emotionally and physically. I don't know. You watched the whole thing, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But
So what were your impressions of the game? Because that's kind of how I felt about it, just watching.
yeah, I felt the same way too. I feel like there was so much media hype around that, and there was so much time spent on that shot that like it pretty much, I mean, everyone was pretty much at the same thing where it was like, yeah, that was probably like going to be that was basically the championship. That was going to be the best game this year. And I feel like they just were gassed because that felt like the peak, and they felt like they like peaked completely. And they had so much coverage over that. I'm sure they, had some sort of party or something and had like a good time and everything to celebrate, because how could you not? And then you got to come into your next day going in on a Sunday and pretty much be like, okay, this is your recovery day, but you also feel like garbage still from the night before. And then by the time you're starting to feel better and actually get rest, like boom, it was Monday. I think it was Monday night, right? And they ended up playing. And yeah, I feel like they were definitely gassed, and all that hype like took the wind out of their sails.
Yeah, exactly. That's 100%. That's how I felt. It just was one of those where watching it, like normally again in the tournament, it's one of those where, and this is what happens when a team like makes a major upset too. Is generally when a team makes like a major upset, like a 5 over a 12 or something like that, or a 6 over 11. Usually those type of upsets that are pretty big, nobody expects it, end up the next game the team ends up not performing very well. We kind of saw this back with that massive upset with the 16 seed over a 1 seed back when Virginia got beat. That was one of those where yeah, of course, that was my team that I had picked the championship that year, so that was fantastic. But anyways, yeah, no, it's just one of those where like you watch them and they won by like 20 points. So it was convincingly. And you're like, okay, maybe this team's really good. But then it was one of those where the next game they came out and they were kind of drained, they're kind of tired. And it's really because it's just all the emotion and it kind of gets the best of you. It's just like all the emotion comes out in the previous game. And that's really what happened in that game with Gonzaga over UCLA. By the way, that was a fantastic game. I mean, that was worth the price of admission to this whole freaking tournament. I mean, it was awesome. It was every second of that game was fantastic because it never felt like either team was above the other or better than the other. And UCLA was shocking this year. I mean, obviously they're the talk of the tournament this year at least. Baylor should be, rightfully so. They definitely deserved it and played well, and I'll talk about them in a minute, and we'll talk all their praise in the world. But UCLA did an incredible job this tournament. And like I said, it was a spectacular game, honestly. As the Final Four matchup goes, it was one of the best I've ever seen. But just at the end of the day, it was one of those where I think it just drained them too much. And then you go into a game against Baylor, who's probably the most complete and best, obviously the best team in the country, and rightfully so with the way that they played and the way everybody contributed. That Gonzaga just didn't have it. And then of course you look at the stats and like. I think the first half Baylor shot like 70% from 3, so it was one of those where Baylor's just on fire.
They literally could not miss. It was just it was unbelievable.
Ridiculous. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I mean, you were just watching the whole time and you're just like, I don't know when these guys are going to miss. And then there was other things too, like I forget his name. I didn't learn the names of the players. That's probably my fault, but I mean, it's a tournament. But there was one kid who I think he scored like 1 point the entire game, but he had like 9 offensive rebounds. And it was just that to me stood out because that was like that right there shows you like who was the complete team, who was the best team. Like that, when you have a guy that scores 1 point and is able to contribute and plays his role so effectively that he ends up with 9 offensive rebounds, and a couple blocks defensively. That just goes to show right there that they were a complete team and everybody played their role well. Everybody contributed. There wasn't like a guy who was sitting on the bench or something like that. Everybody obviously contributed in their way, whether it be rebounding, whether it be defending. Their defense was unbelievable. I mean, the whole game, it was just stifling. Like it was, and then the effort too is what stood out to me with Baylor. Is a lot of times you can play defense well. In a lot of defense, you'll hear guys say that defense is like it's 50% effort and like 50% like actual knowing where to be and stuff like that. Because it's true. Because a lot of defense is taking. You have to use the energy and the effort that you have in order to actually make the play, whether it be a steal, whether it be a block shot, whether it be getting over in a rotation fast enough to close out and stop a shooter from having an open shot, and contesting shots and just getting a hand in the range of a shot. That's the type of stuff that makes you a great defender and makes a team a great defensive team. Is actually putting in the effort and energy to do so, as well, not for just 5 minutes or 8 minutes bursts in a game, but for the full 40 minutes. And that's what Baylor did. I mean, it was a beautiful thing to watch, the full 40 minutes of them just playing unbelievable defense. Like there's times where like Gonzaga would go on a breakaway after a steal or something like that, or a turnover, and they'd be driving down the lane. It'd be like 2-on-1 or 2-on-2, and the first guy would make a good defensive decision to like force the dribbler to take the shot instead of him dishing it to the other guys. And then you would see 2 guys coming from behind on Baylor running full speed down the court, never slowing down, never taking a second. And like it was a couple times there, it was crucial. I mean, there was a couple times where I saw one guy go up for a thing and he was waiting for the other 2 guys to jump, and they did, and then he was going to go up with it after and probably get a foul and possibly an and one, and then all of a sudden a third defender from Baylor comes flying out of nowhere over and swats the ball out of his hands to stop the play. It's just things like that where the whole game were just it was incredible. I mean, they're just a very well coached, very skilled, very talented. They all knew their roles. They all played effectively in their roles, and they all did their jobs exceptionally well. They had, I think it was like 12 minutes or something. It was something. I couldn't remember what time it was, but it was a ridiculous amount of time before they had a turnover in the second half. I mean, it was wild. The whole game, they definitely deserved it. They deserved to win for sure. That was, there's not a lot of times in the entirety of college basketball or even sports in general where you say that like a team definitively 100%, no refs, no arguments about calls, no arguments about the team was injured or the team was like, that team looked 100% definitively like they deserved to win it, and they did. And it was a good story too, because I'd heard the head coach was a guy who had been there since I think like 2003, and when the program was basically in shambles, he came in like 2003 and said that like, I don't want to make the tournament, I want to win games in the tournament. And then you look at the team, and I mean 18 years later he's won a national championship. So kudos to them. Congrats to all of those guys, all those players, everybody in that organization that helped them get to that point, and kudos to that head coach for coaching such a incredibly well put together team that definitely deserved to win and did so very convincingly. So so your thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, there was a couple points in the game where it seemed like Gonzaga would actually be able to get back in, and every single time they got pushed away by like 4 or 5 more points. So I mean, it was very definitive. There wasn't really like it could have went the other way. It was really clear cut, which doesn't make for the most entertaining game, but I mean, they dominated out of the gate for the rest of the game, so that was cool to see.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. I mean, it's always sad to see March Madness end just because of the madness aspect of it. It's just there's so many upsets, there's so many fun games, and because of the upsets and because of the games and because of us contributing or participating in tournament challenges and bracket challenges and making brackets, it always makes it it all elevates the fun for everybody involved. I mean, there's people that I know, especially even like my girlfriend, for instance, who doesn't watch, sports outside of, hanging out with me and me making her watch sports, but she didn't watch sports, but she's, actually paying attention and watching the last 5 minutes of every game because she wants to make sure that her team wins or whatever. So that's the kind of thing that I love about March Madness every year, is that it's always a thing that brings people together in sports. And especially right now with COVID and everything like that, it was awesome to see a team just be able to go in, all these teams come in, go in, play. Other than the one team, which was I believe VCU, that got knocked out of the tournament very early based on COVID positive tests in their organization or close to the team, that basically led them to get kicked out, unfortunately. Other than that, I mean, everybody was everybody was safe, everybody was healthy, and the tournament was awesome. There was a lot of upsets. I understand people might think that it wasn't as exciting because and I think that comes from like people not knowing the teams and not knowing, kind of everything, like not knowing the players. You're like, the only name I heard all year was basically Cade Cunningham, who was number 1 overall pick for sure, no matter what, in Oklahoma State. But I didn't really hear much about any other team. I mean, you did hear flashes of Illinois and Michigan and Gonzaga and Baylor, of course, because those are the 1 seeds and those are the teams that were dominating during the regular season. But you didn't really hear much about these other teams like UCLA or Maryland that played super well. All these other teams that did their part in making this tournament really kind of fun to watch, and with all the upsets and the unknown aspect of this year was really fun to watch. So despite not winning a single thing in my bracket and being probably one of the worst years for me bracket wise, it was still fun to watch. It was still a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you still had a good time at the end of the day. To the end of the day, it was still fun.
Yeah,
even if it's
exactly.
even if it breaks your bracket, as long as it's entertaining, who cares?
Yeah, exactly, and that's how I feel. It's one of those where I'm like, nah, it's okay that my bracket wasn't that great. Like I had Illinois winning it all, and so when Illinois lost pretty early on, it was one of those where I'm like, all right, I really don't have anybody in that I care about anymore. Like, I don't have a chance at winning this thing. So, like, let's just root for teams that are kind of fun. So, like, I was rooting for UCLA the whole time. I was rooting for, like, a Houston. It was kind of sad to see them lose. But, again, obviously they lost to, the best team in the country. So, it's not too bad of a loss. But, yeah, so it was a lot of fun. It was a great tournament. Sad to see it's over, but all good things come to an end, and that's what makes them good. Is that they end at some point and then come back next year.
Yeah, and then hopefully next year they'll have full fans, and it'll be even crazier. Probably less. More predictable than this one, but yeah, it'll probably be a little bit more hyped up. That'd be fun to see.
Yeah, no, I agree, but. So that was a little bit of, that's obviously the tournament. And then there's some things, college basketball, kind of the fallout of the tournament, which usually is what happens. There's some teams that like underperformed and, things happen for those teams. So a couple of the fun things I saw, or those teams that performed very well and lead to good coaching jobs for, other teams and stuff. So to start, I saw Shaka Smart, who was the head coach of Texas. He was originally at VCU when VCU made a couple of those runs in the tournament, and he put together some really good teams there. He did put together some really good teams in Texas. They just all underperformed. It's just, it was kind of one of those where they would always make the tournament. I mean, this year they were a 3 seed, and, everybody expected them, I think 2 or 3 seed, and they were expected to be really good in this tournament, and kind of just, basically pulled in Illinois and didn't really perform at all to their potential. So that was kind of sad to see, but Shaka Smart's a good coach. I fully expect he's actually signing with Marquette. I fully expect him to build good teams at Marquette, and hopefully, which he has in the past, he's always been kind of put together good defensive teams. Hopefully he puts together some better defensive teams there for them, because the Marquette fan base has really not had a ton of actual good defense to watch. They've had a lot of offense, in recent years with Marcus Howard and everything, but unfortunately not enough defense to make any noise. And so hopefully Shaka Smart is able to build a team there that will do that. And then as well, kind of sad to see Roy Williams retired from North Carolina. He was actually an assistant coach in the Jordan years, and then became the head coach. Became one of the best head coaches of all time in college basketball, winning I think there was a couple championships. I don't remember how many exactly, but definitely an iconic coach in college basketball. One of those guys that you always hear is always in the tournament, always has good teams. You know, you want to go play for him. Coach K, you know, Roy Williams, Jim Boeheim. Those are like the coaches that you always, you know, you've known for years. And so it's sad to see him go. Hubert Davis, his assistant, who's been his assistant for 9 years. He's actually the son of, I believe, Walter Davis, who's an ex NFL or ex NBA Hall of Famer. He has been there for 9 years, takes over for Roy Williams. Roy Williams kind of groomed him over the 9 years to be his successor. So it's good to see him take over. And I expect that he'll basically kind of help to keep the excellency at that program high, although it is hard to follow up a legend like Roy Williams. Texas Tech hired Mark Adams, so that was a little different hire for them. Texas Tech has had a couple of really good teams over the years, but kind of underperformed again, similar to Texas. So they had to part ways with their head coach, and they hired Mark Adams. So hopefully he's able to kind of change the tide for them. Like I said, they've always had really good teams. It's just that they've never been able to actually put it together to win some things. The coach at Loyola left. He took the job at Oklahoma. Kind of sad to see him go. He was Loyola was his alma mater. He was a really good coach. Obviously, built some incredible teams there that played exceptionally well. And the one thing I will say about Loyola too is every single year, no matter how good they were or how bad they performed or whatever they did, they were always extremely well coached. Very similar, in my opinion, to how Gonzaga is always well coached every year. That's how I felt about Loyola teams every single year. And so I guarantee that Oklahoma is getting a really good coach that's really going to build some solid teams, and they're going to make a lot of noise, I think, in the tournament moving forward. So I would expect to see Oklahoma back in the tournament year after year. That was another one. But taking over for him at Loyola, which is kind of interesting, is Drew Holiday, which is actually the brother of Denzel Valentine, or I'm sorry, not Drew Holiday, Drew Valentine, who is actually the brother of Denzel Valentine, the player for the Bulls. So
okay,
that's a fun little fact there. And then also I saw that Iowa's Luka Garza won the Wooden Award, which is basically like the MVP trophy for the college basketball season. So that was pretty amazing. Shout out to him. He had a great season and a great year, so that's not surprising. Iowa underperformed, I think, in the tournament to a lot of people's expectations, but he didn't. So good for him, and I'm sure he'll be a high draft pick. Looking at the comment, saying Gonzaga's got lucky and wouldn't win the A. Yeah, I do feel like Gonzaga might have been a little, like I said, because early on, I didn't pick Gonzaga to win the championship, even though they went undefeated, because I was looking at their tournament, and like some of the best teams they played were like BYU. And I was like, is BYU really that good? Or is BYU, are they that good that makes Gonzaga look that much better? Or is it that they're just both playing each other, and that's, a competition elevates competition when you're the only two playing each other, or something like that? Something along the lines where basically I think that BYU, like, being highly rated helped make Gonzaga look better than they potentially were. And yeah, they did have Suggs, who was one of their highest rated prospect they've ever gotten to the program, and he's definitely going to be probably a top 5, top 10 pick in the NBA draft. But yeah, I do feel like Gonzaga underperformed and may have been a little lucky to be where they were sitting undefeated. I mean, granted, they did win all those games. Somebody had to do it. They did it, and it doesn't happen often. So, they do deserve some respect in that regard. But yeah, I agree. I think that maybe, them going against UCLA, I don't know how good UCLA is compared. It's hard to judge it, again, with this whole COVID year and the way it was. But yeah, I do feel like they underperformed and maybe did get a little bit lucky. So yeah, you were right there. And like I said, I was right too. I didn't think that they were going to win it, and I was right as well.
Yeah.
So, but, and then last but not least, definitely not least, I did see that Stanford won the women's national championship. So, shout out to them. Their first title, I think, since '92. It was actually kind of an interesting, fun game to watch. I don't, watch women's basketball as much as maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. I just don't watch it as much. And it was actually an interesting tournament to watch, and it was actually an interesting ending to the game too. So shout out to them. Good for them. By the way, did you see too that Russell Wilson's little sister is on that team?
No, I had no idea, but that makes sense. They're an athletic family.
Yeah, I'm seriously. But yeah, Russell Wilson's little sister was on Stanford basketball team that won. So I saw that because I've, obviously been following Russell Wilson with all the NFL stuff, so and the Bears stuff. But yeah, so that's. You have anything else you want to add about the tournament, college basketball in general? It's kind of my wrap up of everything that's happened.
My girlfriend has the opinion that the NBA sucks compared to college basketball because it's actually based around winning as a team and having to use different set plays and everything. And after watching the tournament, I totally agree because I could not be more bored with the NBA in its current state. And college basketball is actually fun to watch, and also got to kind of educate myself a little bit more about what was going on, rather than just being like, oh, okay, dump it off to your local superstar or whatever and just let them take over the game. So I thought it was a lot more fun that way. I mean, obviously there's superstars in college basketball and everything, but I felt like it had to be more team based. You couldn't just lean into if you had a Suggs or whatever on the team, you couldn't. One, he didn't play well. Two, he didn't carry them because of you can't do that as easily. Yeah. So I thought it was a lot more fun to watch and a lot more entertaining. I had a good time with it, and it's a shame that it's over, but it's also, I feel like March Madness is at the perfect length right now. I mean, going more into that with baseball, but every game counting, and it's actually a must-see type of thing that you want to see every time. So I feel like they have a really good balance, and I'm sure in a couple of years they'll find a way to screw that up in some way, because they can't just leave things alone. But we'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I definitely, being an NBA fan, always grown up loving the NBA. I mean, you can see the Jordan poster and the Rodman poster. I love the NBA. I've always grown up watching the NBA. I've watched the NBA finals every year. I get excited for those upsets and those teams, and I do love watching certain teams and stuff. And I've been a huge Bulls fan my entire life. But yeah, the NBA, unfortunately, is not as fun, I think, in my opinion, to watch as the college basketball tournament, at least. As far as playoffs go compared to each other, definitely tournament over the playoffs of the NBA. Now, the finals are usually pretty good because you finally get the two teams that are the best two teams in the league to actually play against each other, and then that makes a great series. But yeah, it is kind of hard almost to watch compared to the tournament, because the tournament is just so much more exciting because you get all these teams that do have to play, like you said, as a team. I mean, you see with, again, example, we just talked about Cade Cunningham at Oklahoma State being the best player in the country and definitely the number one overall pick. I mean, his team, won one or two games and then lost. So, I mean, it's definitely more of a team game, and that becomes much more fun because you get to see these teams like a Loyola Chicago or a UCLA that come out of nowhere and playing super well together as a team, end up winning over some teams that maybe should have beat them over talent alone. But instead, the team effort and the team overall play gets the win. So that definitely, in my opinion, I get what you're saying and I get where you're coming from. I definitely enjoy watching the tournament more than just the regular playoffs of the NBA. I was really surprised, honestly, that the Panthers made this trade. But like I said, looking at the previous trade that happened with the 49ers, kind of makes sense that they see four quarterbacks probably going off the board and probably some guys that they liked. They could potentially drop it to 8, and so they went ahead and pulled the trigger on the trade, fearing basically the miss out on getting any quarterbacks other than who they have right now, which is Teddy Bridgewater. So not really too much of a shock, I guess, in that department, just because it makes sense when you think about it that way. But it was kind of shocking in the sense that I didn't think the Panthers were going to trade for Sam Darnold. I thought maybe they would trade up and try to go for the 5th pick with the Bengals or something like that, or try to make something happen maybe with the Falcons, who are now saying that they would like to trade or would listen to trades. So I kind of shocked there, but Sam Darnold going to the Panthers for a 6th round pick this year, a 2nd and 4th round pick next year, doesn't feel like too much, just because a 6th round this year is pretty much nothing. I mean, you're talking a very, very, very small chance that player is going to be a starter or even a home run pick. So more of a depth guy at 6th round pick that you're hoping. And then really the gist of really the bulk of the picks are the second and fourth next year. I guess if you're trading for Sam Darnold this year, getting rid of the sixth, you're hoping that with the eighth pick and your second and third and fourth round picks that you're going to pick players to help build around him. So that's what I would assume. So that would be my thinking there, is that maybe they're confident with Sam Darnold being their move going forward, and then they don't really care about the picks next year because they care more about the picks this year. They didn't give a first round pick up, which is good. That kind of helps them. So that, there's at least that. But yeah, a very interesting trade. It basically all but confirms that the Jets are 100% taking Zach Wilson. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit more in my mock draft, but that definitely confirms that. Sam Darnold gets a little bit of a refresher. Hopefully he actually is able to reach the potential that I think he can reach. I've seen a lot of throws with him in the Jets where he kind of shocks me and makes some incredible throws that you would see out of a quarterback who's top 15 in the league. Of course, he was on a team with Adam Gase and whatever else was put out there with him, which was terrible. So definitely can see him having a chance there to make a difference. So yeah, it's definitely a refresher and a reset on his career, and I hope that honestly it's a good reset on his career. He's a lot of good players there, wide receivers. He gets McCaffrey, he gets DJ Moore. He gets he reunites with his old wide receiver. Man, I can't remember his name. It's escaping me at the moment, but reunites with him coming from the Jets. So he's a much more talented team, and we'll see in my mock draft a little bit later, shortly, which also I want to point out that I see your comment about Atlanta, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in the mock draft. So I'll address that there. But yeah, I definitely, you'll see in my mock draft maybe what the Panthers will also give to help him out a little bit. And so it's ultimately at the end of the day, I think it works for both teams. The Jets get a couple picks in return for a quarterback that they definitely weren't moving forward with, especially having the second overall pick. And I saw that they came out and basically said that since they had gotten the second overall pick, that was what made them basically decide to move on from Darnold, and that if they had gotten a lower pick, they would have kept him and just given him some weapons. Whatever. You could say that hindsight 2020 after making the trade. That's fine. You could say all you want about how we would love to keep him. You made your decision. You liked Zach Wilson better, and that's fine. I mean, go get your guy. That's how it always works out in the draft. If you like a guy and you think that he's going to be successful, go get him, because you don't want to be the team that is 100% sold on a guy and you let him go to another team before you because you didn't want to go get him, and then you see him be successful on a different team. So I'm fine with it. That's how I feel about the trade. What were your thoughts on this interesting trade between these two teams?
I was just shocked the amount they were able to get for him. I didn't think anyone was going to put up anything close to a second round pick, and I don't know if there's more about if it's like conditional or anything, but like I thought we were talking about a fourth, like 2/4, and maybe like a third or something, but like a second round pick, a fourth and a sixth, I thought that was wild. And I think the Panthers just got super desperate again, just like they did last year with Teddy Bridgewater and signing him. And I don't know how it'll lay out. Obviously it's like a way better offense in total on the Panthers, so like that's good, and maybe actually a team that'll coach him and put effort into that. But like I was just shocked by the amount of draft capital they gave up. I didn't think the Jets were going to get anything for that. So good for them. They're going to obviously be able to reload with Zach Wilson and use those draft picks in other places. So they're in a good spot, and I don't think they're going to be a laughing stock that much longer, which is, that's fun. I don't have any problem with the Jets being good or competitive.
Yeah, me neither. I don't mind the Jets being good at either. So, it's one of those where, the one thing I will say about that is I did think that it might take a second. I just didn't think it was going to take any of the other picks. Like, I'm surprised that there was a 6th round and a 4th round pick being thrown in there. I really thought at the end of the day it was going to be probably like a 2022 or 2023 second round pick, and that was basically going to be it. That's probably the highest value they'd get. Now, I do think that, like you said, I think it was because the Panthers got desperate and showed their desperateness in probably the call they made to the Jets about Sam Darnold. The moment they made that call, I'm sure the Jets were like, okay, right after the 49ers trade, they're going to make this call. Okay, they're desperate. So that may have played a role into how much they got for him. But like I said, I think Sam Darnold was drafted high for a reason, and I think that he is talented enough, and I've seen enough of him. With Josh Rosen, for example, to me, there was issues with him before the draft on whether or not he even wanted to play football, or whether he was really in it or his heart was in it. So like him not doing well in the league is not surprising. But like Sam Darnold wanted to play football, and not only that, but showed flashes. He just had some issues that you had to iron out, and a good coach would iron out. It's just that he ended up with Adam Gase, who unfortunately is Adam Gase and has never had a successful offense outside of the Peyton Manning years, which, really, having Peyton Manning is not making
cheerleader. He was a cheerleader at that point.
You're basically giving Peyton Manning suggestions on what you think you should call, and then Peyton goes, "Listen, I got it. Don't worry," and then gives him like a finger gun, and then like goes out and calls a play. So like that's kind of how that goes.
And he got 2 head coaching jobs out of that and numerous offensive coordinator positions. It's wild.
It's wild. It's wild how many. It's wild. Yeah, Omaha. That's all he's got to say, and then everybody knows he's going to complete a pass. But yeah, I'm surprised, unbelievably surprised, how often in the league that coordinators and previous head coaches get brought into coaching staffs. Like, it's funny. Like I was talking to my dad, and we were talking about potentially when Matt Nagy was going to get fired. And he still might, but we were talking. We're like, Matt Nagy's going to have another job. He's going to have an offensive coordinator job somewhere, and then there's going to be another team that gives him a head coaching job. That's just the way the NFL goes, and that's how it was with Adam Gase. Is the Dolphins, failed and they got rid of him, and then the Jets were like, "Listen, I want more of that," and then they got him, and and then it ended up where it is. But yeah, I think Sam Darnold has a lot of potential and actually has the talent to reach his potential. I just think that it's him being on a terrible team and him being with Adam Gase that's really ruined him. And I really hope that finally 4 years into his progression, that the Panthers are able to finally turn him around and start developing him like he should have been years ago, and hopefully it turns into something. I think he can. It just is going to take the right coaching and the right situation. And so we'll definitely will be watching this next season, seeing if that plays a factor. But yeah, very interesting trade amongst all the other interesting trades that have happened. So yeah.
Where do you think Teddy Bridgewater is going to go now? And he's going to stay?
See, the sad part is like I don't want to say it because it hurts my soul, but I know that the Bears had liked Teddy Bridgewater, and so like immediately when the moment I hear Sam Darnold traded, I thought, wow, Sam Darnold gets to go to the Panthers. That's good for him. Oh no.
They already made their commitment, though.
Here we go.
Yeah, they can't even argue to anyone that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be a better alternative to Andy Dalton.
Yeah,
I can't disagree with that more. So I doubt they're going to do that. It
shock me as a Bears. It just wouldn't shock me. Is all I'm saying. Is like, I wouldn't surprise me.
They're incompetent, not malicious, though.
Huh?
They're incompetent. They're not malicious. If they traded for him and like gave draft capital and also squeezed themselves like under the cap again, like that's really just like forget about everyone else.
Yeah, but I don't know. I see that Ravens backup that could make sense. I definitely could see that. He plays a similar. He could play a similar style to Lamar as far as having some running ability. I don't know if he fits particularly well in that offense. I would think Teddy Bridgewater would be better in even the Patriots would make sense for him. I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on him. I think ultimately at the end of the day, Teddy Bridgewater is on the Panthers roster because I don't think anybody wants a flyer on Teddy Bridgewater with $20 million sacked in his contract for 2 years, or $20 million per year. So I don't think he ends up anywhere. I think he stays. I think it's just Sam Darnold's the starter, and Teddy Bridgewater unfortunately becomes a backup again, and kind of Teddy Bridgewater basically becomes the who's the other two quarterbacks that we talked about before.
Bad ones or good ones?
Names that escape me, but essentially those falls in that category of quarterbacks that never really, unfortunately, got an incredibly fair shot at being a quarterback, and it's just like a career, somewhat starter, somewhat backup. So
Tyrod?
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor falls in that, and then the guy from the Colts who was back up in the Patriots.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett or whatever.
Brissett falls in that category too. Yep. Yeah. Those are the two. Those are the two that like I feel like that's where Teddy Bridgewater is unfortunately going to end up, and it sucks. But I mean, he's still going to make money, so who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
But other than that, one more thing before we get to my mock, which I teased a bunch. I do want to. Yeah, right. Honestly.
My God, I haven't had Portillo's in months. That's on the menu for this weekend.
Oh, yeah, the Portillo's is so good. It's so funny because it's like when I think of like Chicago places to go, I like Portillo's obviously comes to mind, but like I don't want to say Portillo's, but like I do say Portillo's because it is good. Like when somebody comes to Chicago, you're not like yeah, you should go to Portillo's. Like I don't want to say that. Like there's so many other places, but then I'm like, listen, it's good and it's cheap. You're gonna like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Gino's East too, 100%.
Yeah.
I love pizza, so pizza's my favorite food on the whole planet. So everywhere I can get pizza is great. Yeah, Portillo's, onion rings, chicken. Yeah, just everything. I mean, like onion rings, chicken tenders, their burgers, they're freaking literally everything at Portillo's is good. So that's the problem as a Chicagoan, is I'm just like, oh, you should get this, and then it's like, whatever. I personally, pepperoni is my favorite topping.
Yeah, I'm actually might be on that life now too.
I do like pepperoni and jalapeno though too. That also is really good.
Ooh, too much spice. I'd be absolutely messed up in the stomach for like days. It'd be great though. It's tasty.
I can't handle spice. I mean, barbecue sauce affects me. I can't handle sauce, but I do love a good pepperoni and jalapeno pizza.
Oh yeah.
It is good. Pepperoni is good. I'm also just kind of a weird just cheese person. Yeah, I'm with you. I like just cheese too as well. That's also how I am. Yeah, spicy food, fantastic. Definitely plenty of it in the Chicagoland area, which is great. Chicago definitely, in my opinion, is probably at least the places I've been, it's the best city for food all around. Like you can get literally anything you want any time of the year
from any demographic.
Yeah, like listen, I've been to Italy and stuff. The pasta's amazing, all that. But it's just the variety that you have here in Chicago is amazing. And that, like with the little pizzas, you're throwing out Gino's East. I mean, you get like just literally all the places that are iconic. Illuminati's, the freaking Rosati's. What's the C? The name starts with the C.
It's a pizza place?
Yeah, they make really good pizza. I'm trying to think of what it is.
I see. Oh, I don't know. I'm trying to think off the top of my head.
Also, CC's. No, not
get out of here.
I'm thinking, what is that pizza? What is the pizza called? It's not CC's. It's like a girl's name. Is the name of the pizza place? Man, it'll come to me at some point. But anyways, I do want to shout out to Wisconsin there. 100%. My girlfriend lives in Wisconsin, and I make her get me cheese all the time, as well as Connie's. There we go. Nailed it.
Yes.
Nailed it. Connie's. Thank you. My God, man. But yeah, shout out to Wisconsin. I freaking love cheese, on like every type of cheese. So my girlfriend, I always make her. We always have cheese. The best whenever I go visit my girlfriend in Wisconsin, because she lives in Madison. Yeah, Spotted Cow for the win. 100%. I like Moon Man too from New Glarus. That's like one of my favorites from them. But anyways, yeah, so yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, whenever I go up to visit Alyssa too, we always do our Game of Thrones nights where we watch a bunch of episodes of Game of Thrones because she's watching it for the first time. And while we do that, we always have like 5 or 6 different cheeses, and we make a cheese tray. And then we have crackers, and then we have like our drinks, like I'm drinking like an IPA or something like that, or like a Moon Man or like a New Glarus. And that's how we do our freaking Moon Nights, because it's or our movie nights or Game of Thrones nights, because it's awesome.
Oh my God! How long do you guys have until you get to season 7?
We're in season 7 right now.
Oh shit! I'm sorry. It probably got so much. It got so much worse. That's a shame.
Well, season 7
get to that point.
Season 7 is what got you excited though for season 8, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Season 7 was good. It's just season 8 was so disappointing. Like the second half of season 8.
And you're moving to Madison this year. That's where you got decided. Very nice.
Yeah, I love Madison. Even my girlfriend, she was going to the University of Madison for grad school, and she actually is gonna go to a different school just because she's online program, just different things she wants to do. But she's actually staying in Madison. She's looking for apartments to stay in Madison. I love that city. I wish that it wasn't during COVID and we can actually explore it a little bit more. But when I was able to a little bit, it was awesome. Such a fun city. She loves it. Yeah, it's such a fun city because there's enough like nightlife, there's enough restaurants, there's enough stores, and it also seems like a younger city. Like if that means, um, listen,
The
I make
traffic.
like a 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive from the southern Chicagoland area. Every probably 2 times a month in order to go visit her. But yeah, she loves it there. She basically has talked about how like the restaurants are great. There's a lot of good restaurants there. There's a lot of good nightlife when we were actually able to go. A lot of different bars that were pretty fun. There's one bar, I can't remember what it's called, but we were able to go, and it was like they had like 80 different shots that you could get, and as long as you requested, you had to request two of that shot, and you were able to get it. But like, oh my god, they were so good. I had probably way too many of them, and they were all fantastic. There's another bar. God, the Nitty Gritty. The Nitty Gritty bar. You can go on your birthday, and they give you a custom mug that says like Nitty Gritty, like 2020, whatever year it is, and you can bring that mug to the bar on your birthday and fill it with whatever's on tap, like literally anything,
Oh, okay.
the entire night for free.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they tie like a little they tie they tie a little balloon to it too. So like it's funny because on like the weekends there for nightlife, like when we went, you could see all of the people that had birthdays because literally you just see these balloons like sticking up from like the crowd. But
Yeah.
that was an awesome place. And they also did a power hour MG, I think it was, or something like that. So, and it was like you could buy, it was a $1 beers. It was like Miller High Life, but like who gives a shit when it's $1? So I bought 10 of them and I just I put them in the middle. I bought like 15 of them and I just put them in the middle of the table and I just was like, all right, everybody can grab one. And so like we were all just grabbing them and drinking them. Also to the person that said, how did we meet? Yes, the Dylan and Dylan squad, fantastic. How did we meet? Was it fifth grade, fourth grade?
I don't even remember, honestly. Probably
I
fourth.
I remember you being the new kid.
Yeah, I moved in fourth grade, so
Yeah, so I think it was fourth grade. I remember you being the new kid, and then we sat next to each other because every single teacher, anytime we ever had class together, thought it was hilarious to sit the Dylan and Dylan next to each other. So I remember that being the case, and then I remember like we were on the same baseball team too, so we just ended up like becoming friends and have basically been friends since. So like literally,
I forgot we
what
played on the
is it?
same baseball team for a couple of times. Wow.
Yeah. So what has it been? It's been like 14 years at this point. Close to
Yeah,
that, right?
probably. Ugh.
13,
Yeah.
14 years.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Moved in 2006, 2021, probably about then. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can do
that
math.
sounds about right.
I live 14 years or so. Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, and you're close to the Wisconsin Dells. It's funny because of COVID, I forget that like Wisconsin Dells existed because it's just like not a place that we can unfortunately go
It doesn't
to. But
exist in this reality right now, basically.
Exactly.
Be like a water park. You're
This-
like, are you insane? Like, no, it's great. You splash water on strangers and you just like go in the same tubes as them and slide around in their saliva, and everyone's like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like,
And
I was hoping to do
somebody's
that.
peed in the pool too. Like
Yeah.
multiple people have.
Yeah,
You
be like,
know,
oh, that sounds great.
100%. Oh man. Yeah. Anyways, I finished what I was saying. Yeah, we love Madison. Bill's character and immune system.
And the immune, yeah, and the immune system. Mhm.
But yeah, I love Madison. It's a lot of fun there. It's a lot of like I said, it's a very young city where like it just seems like everybody that's there is like in their 20s, and so like the whole city, and even if they're not in their 20s, they're like hip old people. Like You know, like it's one of those where you go to like a coffee shop and you see that like 60-year-old dude with like the glasses and like his shirt tucked in and like this tight pants with like the loafers on, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy gets it.
He's here a lot.
Yeah, that's how I feel about that. But it is a great city. I do love it there. I definitely love going up there and visiting. Like I said, I wish it was more open. I am, and you are about to be. I am vaccinated. You are about to be. I'm medical personnel, so I get to benefit from that. But you know, you're about to be, Dylan, so your whole world opens up a little bit more. I went to a restaurant for the first time in the entire COVID
Really?
breakdown. I was like, I went to. Oh, shout out! Yeah, there you go.
Congratulations.
Your second shot today. That's amazing.
How's the microchip?
How's the microchip? Do you
It's
have
a little
the
bit
sudden
uncomfortable at
urge to
first.
buy? Listen, I've been looking a lot at Microsoft Surfaces, and you know, really great product, honestly.
I was going to buy more computer parts, but then I got my vaccine and I was going to get more anyways. So clearly it's working.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
That's just because I waste money. But yeah, also side note, on top of that, also Dylan in the chat, did you end up getting a job in Madison, or are you moving there first and hoping to get a job there? Because I remember you were talking about something, so wanted to follow up on that. And your arm is warm? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the magma cannon. The second shot is, yeah, you're going to feel a little bit of a kickback. I don't know if you got Pfizer or Moderna, but you're going to feel some side effects tomorrow, my man. Maybe.
Yeah. Well,
maybe you'll get lucky.
I was going to say, depending on what you have, I had the Pfizer one, because that's usually the Pfizer one seems to be, yeah, okay, so you have the Pfizer one, so I can tell
only
you
me.
right now, one thing that I will say as a little heads up for the Pfizer one, and you got it today, so this is a great little heads up for tomorrow. Tomorrow, we'll talk about that in a second. Tomorrow, or the next day, I got the shot at 7 a.m. on Friday, and then I had to work Saturday, and about 11 o'clock on Saturday, so maybe we're talking 30 hours total. After about 30 hours is when suddenly I started like not feeling well, and it like wasn't like a terrible feeling, like I was like oh my god, I'm gonna go throw up. Like it was just an overall like, oh, I feel sick. Like, you know how you feel like your neck gets heavy, like you just don't feel good,
a little bit
like
nauseous.
that's how I felt for the rest of the day, and then the next day I was totally fine. And so it was like a weird 12-hour period, but it started like 30 hours from the shot that I just did not feel well. And it like hit me pretty quick. It was like all of a sudden I was like, what to do? I'm at work, everything's good. And then bam, the next day it was like, oh, I don't feel good.
Yeah, and congratulations on the job offer. That's awesome to actually have that and where that's going to go too. And yes, we're the forefront of anecdotal evidence. So definitely good to watch. Yeah. I gotta bring up chat on screen next time. I think I might change that. I think I might add that to add context to what we're talking about. Side note, production thing, but I think I'm just gonna get it once the vaccines are open to general public. Yeah, you might get a call ahead of time too if you get lucky. But
yeah,
I think April. What is it? They moved it up. What was it like? Biden moved it up to April something. I think April 12th in like a few days instead of waiting until May 1st. So maybe Chicago will move along. I know Chicago's super supply strapped. So
I did hear that get screwed there. I heard a thing too that like Illinois can start going to Indiana for it.
People have been doing that, I think, and I think regardless. But yeah, I think maybe for like pharmacy like appointments and stuff, and like ones where they actually like ID where you're coming from residentially. But I know otherwise like everyone's been going south.
Another thing too that I've heard about just working in the medical field and seeing people and everything like that, I talk to a lot of older individuals in my work. I work at a dermatologist office and in Mohs surgery and surgery, so a lot of patients that I talk to have talked about how like there was a couple patients that actually said that they like basically what they did was they called the pharmacy at the end of the day just to see like, hey, do you guys have any vaccines, like people that didn't show up? And like one of the days the person was like, yeah, if you can get here in like 20 minutes we can give you the vaccine. And then
oh my god, I tried that pretty hard for a while. They were always just like, no, we don't have them, and if we do, you're not going to get them. We'll call everybody else who's older, and then we'll call employees, and then we'll call people across the world, and then we'll do it to an animal before we give it to you. So that one wasn't successful for me, but I did hear, yeah, I heard in places where demand was a little bit less than Illinois, that was successful. But anytime I think here appointments are booked like that and people are driving hours and hours to get it because demand's so high. Whereas you got your other places that have already opened up at 16 plus like weeks ago because the demand's so much lower. So
Yeah.
kind of a symptom of where you're at.
Yep. But all right.
All right, I'm going to
Well-
refill on this very quickly, and we're going to move on to the next segment, which I believe we're going to do the draft. So I'll pull
Yes.
it up if you want to preliminarily introduce.
Here we go. All right. So while he drove 5 hours to Quincy, Illinois, shout out to them. People already did Wisconsin. Wow. Yeah, I mean, if you gotta drive, that was my thinking. I drove to get mine. My work is like an affiliate with the Swedish Hospital in Chicago, if you're familiar, and so I got it there, but I live about an hour and 20 minutes from there, so and mine was 7:30 a.m. was my appointment, so I literally got up at like 5:30 and left, but like, who cares? When is the draft? That is a good question. As far as making a mock draft, I should probably know that, right? I know it's coming up. I know it's not too far away because everybody's getting their pro days out of the way. Of course, when you Google the NFL draft, it doesn't pop up right away with a freaking date. The hell kind of shit is that, Matt, or NFL fixture advertising? JK, they're probably the best sport at advertising. Oh, April 29th Eastern. I should just look at chat instead of being a dipshit. I'm excited for it. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think with all the trades that have happened, unfortunately, being a Bears fan, I'm not as excited as I could have been if we had just not shit our entire offseason away. But here I am, excited with the mock draft, my 3.0. I will start out the mock draft talk by saying that I do want to point out that my mock draft 2.0, I had 2 trades, and the only 2 trades that I had the entire draft were the 49ers and the Dolphins, who both made a trade. Now, I didn't have them with each other, but yeah, about to carry us to the Super Bowl. God, I can't do it. You want to see like my full anger? Just go watch our videos on YouTube. We have a couple Bears videos posted, and I do not hold back. I literally haven't taught. Before those videos occurred, I didn't talk to my family or like people at work about the Bears because I just wanted to like stifle all of the anger into just that video. So if you watch those videos on YouTube about the Bears, I think one of them that we posted, I think one of them was like, what are the Bears even doing? That was because I couldn't put a swear word in the title, which I definitely would have. I started one of those segments talking about the Bears by taking a shot first and letting Dylan talk first because he was better handled the anger than I did. That was our St. Patty's Day special, but yeah,
oh right.
God.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I was going on a little bit of a tangent. Yeah, I was here for that. Yeah, exactly. You got to see it live, my anger, where I just all right. So, what's the YouTube channel? So it's the Dylan podcast is just the channel. We just started literally a couple weeks ago, so there's a bunch of videos, clips up there. If you're not, able to watch the full length podcast, which is totally understandable, there are a bunch of different clips that I have clipped basically from all the podcasts. So it should be the Dylan podcast on YouTube. So you can go check it out there. He just dropped the link to it. So, but anyways, yeah. So let's start with my mock draft. I haven't actually gone into it, Dylan. So you're right in time. Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
I will be posting those videos this weekend from this podcast. Of course, you're here live, so you're seeing it. But if you want to recheck them out, show your friends, whatever, of course. But we are going to move into my mock draft 3.0. So what I started out by saying was that I actually had the 49ers making a trade, as well as I had the Dolphins making a trade. I just didn't have them trading with each other. That was where obviously I was wrong. Predicting the future somewhat, of course, a little cryptic. Can't give you all the details of the future as I see it, but anyways, yeah. So starting off with my mock draft, nothing changes in the first 2 picks. If anything, the first 2 picks become even more confirmed with the way that the recent trades have gone. So number 1 overall, Trevor Lawrence to the Jaguars. It was hilarious if you watched Trevor Lawrence's pro day, just because I've never seen this before. but it like makes sense because he's like guaranteed the number 1 overall pick. But Urban Meyer, the coach of the Jaguars, who are picking here Trevor Lawrence, was standing like 5 yards in front of Trevor Lawrence the whole pro day, just talking to the head coach. And that was like the entire pro day. So it was just like I heard an announcer equate it perfectly, and they said that it's equated to like a person who's bought a car and is taking it out for a test drive. Like that's what it looks like, honestly. So that guaranteed 100% Trevor Lawrence done. They mail it in. That's not even a thought. They shouldn't. If I swear to God, if the NFL, because the NFL is going to do this, and I hate that they do this every year because we always know who the first pick is going to be. But every year, the freaking first pick, they always have like the timer starts and the clock is on or something, whatever they say. And then they try to like build excitement with like, who are they going to pick? And it's like, so it's just like, come on, we know who they're going to pick. We don't need to put a timer on the screen. Like, I get that that's a thing, but like, yes, I think the Bears are going to draft a quarterback. I think it's second round. There's 2 prospects that I think they're going to draft. One of them I like much better than the other one. And again, on my YouTube channel, I actually break down all the prospects. One of the guys that I think the Bears might have a potential of drafting in the second round is Kellen Mond. I think would be a great pick in the second round. I think Kyle Trask is also a potential for the Bears. Those are the 2 that I think are going to occur in the second round. If you look at Kellen Mond and you watch that video where we kind of go through some of his film as well as talk about him, I love the guy. I love what I've seen on film from him and against good competition too. So I really think that Kellen Mond is a potential pick for the Bears in the second round. I think he might go early in the second round, so I really hope the Bears trade up. If he did fall to us and we somehow had the intelligence to actually draft him, I would be ecstatic. We'll see how that goes. I don't have him drafting him here. Shocker. A little bit of a spoiler for later, but yeah. So that's kind of how I feel about that. I think Andy Dalton's 100% locked in. I think whatever quarterback they do draft, if it be in the second or third round, is not going to be expected to start at all. Most likely the entire year he won't. And then the head coach and or Pace and Nagy can sell that as like they're developing a quarterback and they could be here for another 3 years. So there's that.
Sigh.
Yeah, right. But anyways, number 3 overall, San Francisco 49ers take Mac Jones. I was kind of shocked initially because I thought that the 49ers really, really liked Trey Lance, and I thought that was who potentially they would trade up for or go for. It turns out that they do like Trey Lance a lot, but they like Mac Jones a lot more. What that means is that Mac Jones is 100% going to be the number 3 overall pick here. You don't trade up to the 3rd pick and not take a quarterback that's your guy. And from all accounts and all people associated with that program, as well as knowing Shanahan, he wants Mac Jones. That's who he likes. That's who he loves. He's going there. So 100%. And then, yeah, they're going to, and then also following up this kind of comment there. Yeah, you're getting Jimmy G get traded. They think they're going to get a first-round pick for Jimmy G. I don't know what world they think that's going to happen, especially when you come out and say that you think you're going to get a first-round pick. Nobody's going to offer you a first-round pick. It doesn't make any sense to me, but yeah, so the Mac Jones goes here at number 3. And then number 4, I kind of toiled with number 4 a little bit because we talked about the Atlanta Falcons trading, and going back to the comment earlier about if the Falcons are actually going to make this trade. I don't think they do. And I think that it's just going to take too much for teams to move up to 4. The asking price is going to be too high. And I think that they're already seeing Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Mac Jones, who I think, even though Mac Jones in my ranking of quarterbacks isn't as high as some of the other ones, I think that those are the 3 that can start tomorrow in the NFL. It's hard to trade up to the number 4 spot and argue that you're going to take a quarterback that is better than those players. I do think that obviously Trey Lance, Kellen Mond, I think in my opinion are better than Mac Jones and have a higher potential and higher ceiling. I just think that right now with all the hype around the media, the way that it goes, the way that they favor guys, I think it's hard to argue that you're going to take anybody at 4 over those 3. So I think the Falcons, which in my opinion makes sense for them, I think the Falcons take Trey Lance here just because for them it makes a ton of sense to get a quarterback who needs maybe a year of development, which again, I kind of said in my video, I think that Trey Lance needs a year to develop. I think he has a higher potential than Mac Jones for sure, and higher even than Justin Fields. I just think that he needs a year to learn because I don't want him to get ruined in an organization or anything like that. So for me, Trey Lance is one of those guys where he'll sit behind Matt Ryan for a year. Matt Ryan next year, if he gets cut, will save the Falcons like $20+ million. So that gives them incentive to cut Matt Ryan next year. But it does allow him to stay here for this year and allows Trey Lance to basically to kind of learn behind him. And then the other thing too is you got Julio Jones there and everything like that, who I think most likely will get traded next year. If they do keep him around
Julio?
Because they draft Trey Lance, it'd be interesting. But yeah, so but yeah, and then the Cincinnati Bengals round out my top 5. Kyle Pitts has just so much hype around him, and I've talked about him in previous videos and previous podcasts as being one of my favorite prospects that I've ever seen in my life. And the reason why is because you cannot argue a 6'6", 240-pound man playing a hybrid tight end wide receiver position, running a 4.4, and just being that freaking good. It's absurd. And yes, only a wide receiver. He's listed at tight end. He's going to end up being the Travis Kelce. If you look at Travis Kelce's not asked to be on the line blocking. Like that's not how Travis Kelce's used. He's used as a wide receiver usually that lines up kind of in the slot position or a split tight end. So that's how he's going to be used in the NFL, and he's going to be unbelievable at it. And I think it is spectacular for him to get drafted here by the Bengals because I think it gives a target for Burrow to have for probably the next 5 to 10 years even, who's going to be easily one of the best wide receiver tight ends in the league immediately because that's just how good he is. It's just he has no weaknesses in his game as far as I can see. And yeah, it might take a little bit of a transition to the NFL because every player does, but it's just he's not going to fail. He's one of my guaranteed superstars in this draft. There's only 2 guys in my opinion that are guaranteed superstars that cannot fail no matter what, and he's one of the 2. So,
and who's the other one?
The other one we will get to in a moment, Dylan. Okay. Can't jump ahead. Get too excited there.
Let's reveal the next 5.
Yeah. Next 5. So we have Ja'Marr Chase at number 6. I think Ja'Marr Chase is probably the best wide receiver in the draft. I like him a little bit more than Devontae Smith, and that's only because Ja'Marr Chase, to me, feels a little bit safer of a pick, but also the same kind of quality and talent and route running that you're seeing out of Devontae Smith. The reason why I say safer, Devontae Smith is a $170 and, a good day. And that, to me, is a little scary when you have a lot of DBs that are coming into the league and, 220 pounds, or if he's being covered by a cover linebacker who's fast. You're talking a linebacker hitting a guy who's $170 all the time. It seems like he's bound for injury. And so that's what scares me a little bit. He's a little bit Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown, I think, is a little faster. I think Devontae Smith, a better route runner. That's just kind of the way that I feel about him. I do think that he's a great receiver. I just think that Ja'Marr Chase is a hair better and a little bit more confident drafting him. So yeah, Ja'Marr Chase right here to the Dolphins. And the Dolphins made an incredibly intelligent move by trading back and then getting back into the 6th pick because it allows them to take a guy who I thought they would have probably taken at 3 if they didn't even make a trade in Ja'Marr Chase and still get picks for it. So, good trade for them. And that's, the way that goes. And then Devontae Smith to the Lions. The Lions need a wide receiver. I saw in a couple of mock drafts they had the Lions taking Justin Fields. I don't think Fields is going to fall to. I don't think he's going to go to the Lions. I don't think the Lions are going to do that because I think they just traded for Jared Goff. And if you're going to give Jared Goff at least a year to see, and there's a couple of quarterbacks coming out of the draft next year that are interesting that I definitely think could be interesting prospects and picks right there for the Lions. I think it's just too hard to pass up on a wide receiver who
replace Kenny Galladay too.
Yeah, it replaced Kenny Galladay especially. And one thing Kenny Galladay kind of struggled with, he is a very good wide receiver overall, but one thing Kenny Galladay struggled with was getting open off of good coverage. And I think Devontae Smith can do that with his route running. So it's just one of those where I think at the end of the day, they don't pick a quarterback. I think they just go with what they immediately need, which is a wide receiver, and they get a guy who was the Heisman. So, I mean, what are you going to – you're not, bringing that pick home and people are complaining. So, right. And then the number 8 overall pick, which is my number 2 superstar can't fail wide receiver or player, is Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell is not going to fail in the NFL. I mean, he's just like 6'6", 320 for a left tackle, right tackle, who no matter what position, like either one, right or left tackle, he's going to be like a Joe Thomas for your next 10 years of your team. And the Panthers trading for Sam Darnold made me go, okay, they're not taking a quarterback, because they wouldn't have made the trade if they weren't confident that they could get a quarterback that would fall to them or that they could trade for. So that means that they didn't like the quarterbacks that were available at their position that they were drafting. So what did they do? They trade for Sam Darnold. So then what's next? Well, they have a really good right tackle. So what do they need? A good left tackle. And boom, you solidify both tackles positions. You have a decent interior on that offensive line. You get Sam Darnold with Christian McCaffrey coming back. You get DJ Moore. You get Robbie Anderson. That was the name I couldn't remember earlier. Coming from the Jets, who's a deep threat who Darnold's familiar with and connected well with. So, bam, that suddenly the Panthers look like an interesting team if Darnold pans out. And I think that puts him in the best case scenario, too. So, drafting Penei Sewell is a guy that is not going to fail, and it's going to be your left tackle no matter what. If Darnold doesn't work out or if you have to move a different direction, you have your left tackle ready to go, which is, something that a lot of teams can't say. So, number 9, Justin Fields, I think falls this far because I think that he's getting a lot of interestingly bad rep going into the draft. Now, I'm an Ohio State fan. I live and die Ohio State. I have their flag right here off screen. You can't see it. It's on my wall. I've been an Ohio State fan diehard since I was, able to watch football and comprehend what I was seeing. So I've watched almost every game and have watched Justin Fields his entire time at Ohio State. And one of the biggest issues with him, in my opinion, is his inconsistency. And then it does feel like at times he doesn't work hard enough. And I had a commenter argue that he had done some leadership things off screen and everything. So, off thing, and then I'll address that in 1 second. I've seen that argument, and I get that, but what my big thing about him is that I don't think that he plays consistently well enough in order to warrant being a higher pick, as well as I don't think he has the higher success or potential in the NFL because of that inconsistency, and because of there's a lot of talk around the organization and people that know are close to the organization and insiders that have talked about how potentially he doesn't have a great work ethic, which does not bode well if you want to be one of the best quarterbacks in the draft, let alone the league. So that's a lot of issues and a lot of red flags. So that's why he falls. Now, does he go to the Broncos? That makes the most sense to me because the Broncos, if you look at their offense, Bulls, their left tackle, finally started playing super well this year. Wide receivers, they got Cortland Sutton, who I loved coming out of the draft initially. I actually had really hoped that he had gone to the Bears because the Bears needed a wide receiver help at the time. He didn't. Ended up going to the Broncos and being very good there. Jerry Jeudy last year was an incredible draft pick. He's one of the best. He was one of the best route runners coming out of the draft last year, and is one of the purists. Run every route in the tree. And then KJ Hamler coming out of Penn State was awesome too, because he's a fantastic slot utility speedster that can be used anywhere in the offense. So I think that really, and then Noah Fant coming, becoming more and more successful with that offensive line getting a little bit boasted too. Definitely Justin Fields feels like that's the guy that they're going to go with to battle with Drew Lock, and whoever wins that battle is going to be the starting quarterback day one. Right. And then finally rounding out the top 10, and then I'll kind of get your opinion on it as well as answer the question that I saw there. Patrick Surtain goes in at 10. He is the best corner in the draft, in my opinion. Caleb Farley is up there. So is JC Horn with his incredible pro day that he put together, as well as his film is amazing too. Those are 3 corners right there that interchangeably could be really great. Either of them, you'd be happy getting. Patrick Surtain, in my opinion, is just the best. He's the most solid. He's the most reliable. He has the prototypical number 1 corner size, being 6'2". So he, to me, feels like a no doubt he won't fail in the NFL at all because he's just that good. So he's going to immediately slide in there and help them out, especially after they lost their corner. Can't remember his name, but they lost him to the Dolphins last year. So little disappointing. But yeah, so that's my top 10. I do want to answer the question real quick. The quarterbacks, yeah, it's the hardest position to find a consistent player for. I mean, if you look at the quarterbacks, and the other thing too that people don't realize is that quarterback position, Byron Jones, thank you for answering that. Yeah, but they lost Byron Jones to the Dolphins, so they definitely need a number one corner. So that's where Patrick Surtain comes in. Quarterback, though, is one of the hardest positions to find consistency in, because you need a guy who can throw the ball well, strength wise, so throw the ball far, has the accuracy to do so, has touch, being able to throw specific passes over a linebacker's head, under a safety, those kind of things. He needs to have the ability to hit a hitch on a line drive. So he needs to be able to throw the ball hard and in time, and hitches, out routes, flat routes, things like that. He also needs to have the ability to sit in the pocket and basically take a hit and not be stressed about it, or not be worried, or not have that on his mind that he's going to be hit. He needs to basically, be fearless in the pocket. He needs to work in the pocket well. He needs to be able to create when the play breaks down. And all of that, he needs to also step up in those big situations when a throw needs to happen. He needs to not shy away from those moments. And then he also needs to be a team leader. He also needs to be the face of your franchise. It's ridiculous how hard it is to find a quarterback that can be all of those things. So what you're hoping really out of the draft is that you get a quarterback that you can mold into those, and has enough of those qualities to start that it is easy to mold him into that. Some quarterbacks that come out of the draft really just ready to do that. Patrick Mahomes in the latest example, Deshaun Watson as well. And obviously there's questions about his Deshaun Watson right now, but yeah, it's unbelievably difficult to look at a quarterback, scout a quarterback, because really what you're scouting for is what are his flaws, what does he not do off that list that I said, and can we fix those mistakes? Can we fix those issues? Because if a guy just doesn't have touch on a ball, it's hard to teach him touch. It's hard to teach a player to have touch on a ball. Like, you don't throw it so hard, throw it a little bit lighter, but not too hard, but not hard, like it's hard to teach touch. So when a quarterback doesn't have touch, that already sets them at a disadvantage over other quarterbacks. If a quarterback's not a leader in the locker room, not a natural leader, not a hard worker, that automatically sets them back. If a quarterback has difficulty with accuracy, can't throw deep balls very well, that's going to be a problem in the NFL hugely, because if you can't throw a deep ball accurately enough to basically keep a defense honest, they're going to play up on you all the time. You're going to get rushed a lot more and more successfully, and you're going to have a harder time running any type of offense. You can't create and get outside the pocket. That's going to be a problem, because the defenses are going to be able to contain you within the pocket. And once they do that, blitzes and all kinds of things like that can get to you so much quicker and so much easier. And the defense is able to kind of basically play off that. If you get scared from blitzes, or they get happy feet, or they start hearing footsteps, that immediately does the same thing too. So those are all the issues with drafting a quarterback. And that's really, you're just looking at quarterbacks and going, how many issues do they have? What are those issues? Can those issues be fixed? What did they do well? Is it well enough to start and fix those issues? Yes. Okay, then you draft him. That's how that goes.
And also, is Andy Dalton a pocket quarterback, or is he pretty agile? From my understanding, he is mainly a pocket quarterback now who used to be able to run, but basically we don't want to put him in that situation. Maybe he could do it, but he's on the older side now, and he's not the spring chicken running that he used to be. He used to be able to, a little bit more than I think people noticed.
Well, and he doesn't have the same kind of, obviously, like, comparing him to who I'm about to is obviously not even realistic, but like an Aaron Rodgers is able to get outside the pocket. Like you're not scared of him getting outside the pocket because of how much he's able to create and how successful he is at doing so. Andy Dalton has never really had that in his career, moving outside the pocket. So even now at his old age, I really don't expect him to get outside the pocket much. I think he's going to be a pocket passer, which is what they've wanted, and that's what they wanted Mitch Trubisky to be for so long. And now Mitch is in Buffalo, And it's a great situation for him because he gets to learn behind Josh Allen, start with a whole new offense, and he can just spend a year with no pressure on him, just learning the game. And, I wish the best for him. He was a great guy. It's just sad that he was unfortunately drafted by our team, and we had to watch our team suck for 4 years. But,
Yeah.
Anyways, how do you feel about that top 10? Anything surprise you? Anything you find interesting?
I think it was interesting that the Panthers would, what was it? I was interested that the Falcons would take a quarterback. I feel like you're still right about that. Although I like hearing the reports say that they're trying to trade out. I fully expect them to for like a quarterback needy team, maybe, and then they'll still roll the dice on Matt Ryan this year and then really suck after he's gone. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like they could also trade out because this like top 5 and whatever is still super valuable, so they could absolutely double down on their draft capital going in here. This is super interesting to me because like this is definitely taking the this is like the offense over protection pick, obviously, because they could get Sewell, and that would be, everyone really wants them to and projects them to. This is like doubling down on, okay, we just want to, you could deal with the line you got, the Russell Wilson, the Seattle type of strategy. We're just like, we'll give you weapons. We don't really care about what's in front of you, which would be really interesting. And I can't say one way or the other if I really believe what they're going to do, but if they double down on that and he gets hurt again, like, oh boy, that's going to blow up in their face and look bad. Also, Justin Fields falling all the way to the Broncos, that would be crazy with how much he's been talked about recently. If he does, though, like the Broncos are absolutely have to drop Locke or whatever and then move on keep him as a backup or whatever. But if he fell that far and the Broncos really got him, like they'd be way more of an interesting team like out of the gate, because right now they've just been boring because it's really sad, i.e. the Bears, to have like a somewhat complete team and then just have the quarterback you just know just isn't fun, interesting, or this is bad. So this would instantly flip them around and like to being a contender, especially with Fangio's defense, and if assuming Fields works out and translates the NFL pretty well. So interesting top 10. It says a lot about each team, about what they're going to do. The top 3, I don't really have too many discussions about, or too many opposing opinions about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And just a couple things. One, I agree with Seattle and the Rams would be interesting to trade up for. I don't know who they would trade up for. You'll see my picks later on for who I have for Seattle specifically. Rams don't have a first round pick. That's from the Jalen Ramsey trade. The Bears do have a first round pick. That's the 20th overall pick. We'll see that a little bit later, who I think they're going to draft. I think they stay put just because I don't think they're going to be able to trade up and have enough my thinking with the way that I did it and the way that Justin Fields falls is that the teams above him picked needs that they need desperately and the players are too good to pass up for, that they don't make trades to trade down. And that's why I ended up thinking that maybe the Broncos get Justin Fields fall to them because of that factor. So like the Bengals going for Kyle Pitts, that seems like there's just too much hype around Kyle Pitts, and that's why he's going to end up getting there. Miami, Jamar Chase, I would have picked Jamar Chase at 3 if Miami still had the 3rd overall pick for them. So now that they, have the 6th pick, they're going to draft him, and the rest, makes sense to me at least. So,
yeah.
All right.
Oh, it'll be interesting. Side note, just something else I thought of as well. Do you think it's basically a symptom of COVID that so many teams are jumping up in giving up draft capital like crazy because they got to work with the cap crush pretty much? So like they're saying like, hey, like that's fine. I'll eat the loss on draft capital, but we absolutely need an impact player now because we cannot pay for them in free agency, period.
It's hard because I don't know if it's so much so that it's money and stuff like that. I think teams have kind of figured that out now. They've had to deal with it and they've figured it out. I think it's more about the 49ers, for instance. That was them trading up because they want Mac Jones. That's their guy. That's who Shanahan's in love with. So they have to go get him. They actually called to trade up to 2 for the Jets, and the Jets basically said no, which again, they're drafting Zach Wilson. But obviously the 49ers pulled the trigger on the trade, and the reason why they pulled the trigger is because they know that Zach Wilson's off the board, so is Trevor Lawrence. So what does that mean? One of the other quarterbacks they fell in love with, and it ends up being Mac Jones. So that's why I think they go Mac Jones there. I don't think it's about money anymore, because I think teams have kind of figured that out with all the 1-year deals and void years and all that. I think now it's a matter of just when you fall in love with your guy and you go get him, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
okay. Let's see. I'm imagining these ones don't trade or change up too much past the top 10, but
yeah, not a ton. So I don't have to go through them as lengthy as I did the top 10. But I started out with New York Giants, who really need edge help. They were a terrible pass rushing team last year. There's a couple players that I think could be good fits for them. Jalen Phillips has been jumping up on boards. Gregory Rousseau, of course, is a freak of nature and a great pure pass rusher, both out of Miami, which is wild that they hit those two. I think at the end of the day, though, the guy with the most hype around him and seems to be the most complete pass rusher in the draft is Kwity Paye out of Michigan. And so I think the Giants just fill a need here. They have no wide receivers on the board that they feel confident in. Yeah, Jalen Waddle's there, but I feel like they needed edge rush badly more than they did wide receiver help. So, and they've upgraded their offense a ton this year on free agency. So make the move to make the defense upgrade. Then I think the Philadelphia Eagles get lucky with one of the top wide receivers falling to them. They needed a wide receiver desperately to go with Jalen Reagor that they had last year. Jalen Waddle makes the most sense for me because he's such an unbelievable deep threat receiver. Obviously, the fastest receiver in this draft. And no matter what, you teach him some route running, and he's going to be incredible. So he was a no-brainer here for the Eagles to get them another weapon, see what they can get out of Jalen Hurts, which they seem to be committed to this year. Now, I know coaching seems to not be, but the ownership basically said, give Jalen Hurts a chance. So then they go and get him Jalen Waddle, who is a wide receiver who unbelievable speed and was a target previously of Jalen Hurts. So that makes sense to me. And then Los Angeles Chargers need a tackle to protect Justin Herbert, and unfortunately Penei Sewell is gone, so I think Rashawn Slater is the next best left tackle in this draft. So he gets drafted here. That's just the very clear, they need a tackle, they get Rashawn Slater. That's how I think it's going to go. So Minnesota Vikings next get Elijah Vera Tucker. They need inside offensive line help. Elijah Vera Tucker is the best inside offensive lineman ready to go. He's a tackle guard hybrid who can play both outside and inside. I think he's going to be more successful inside, which is what they need. And there are other needs that they could have drafted aren't really available, such as edge rushers and stuff like that. Maybe they don't, Kwity Paye's gone. So they fill the need in the offensive line. And then the New England Patriots, all of the quarterbacks are off the board. So if they were going to make a move for them, maybe they do make a trade up to get, a Justin Fields or something like that. That would be wild and interesting. But I think that more than likely the Patriots sit tight where they are because they're not probably in love with the quarterbacks that are available. And so Micah Parsons, they love their defense. They love getting their defensive guys there. Bill Belichick loves his linebackers, and Micah Parsons is the best linebacker in this draft. He's the best all-around linebacker. He sat out a year from COVID, and that's why people probably don't know him as well as maybe some of the other prospects, but he is the best middle linebacker, prototypical size at like 6'3", 220, 230. So he's going to step in and immediately be the captain of that defense for years and years to come. So that to me just feels like the best available that also fits a need goes right there to the Patriots. All right, number 16 overall. The Arizona Cardinals, for our Cardinals fan in the draft J.C. Horn. Now, I think that the Cardinals could go a couple different places. I really like Jalen Waddle. If he falls to them, to go to them, I think that would be awesome. I think that would add another unbelievable speedster to that ridiculous offense. Yeah, I know. Listen, Horn hasn't had an unbelievable pro day, which boosted his stock. And whether or not you like him as the best corner in the draft or one of the best corners in the draft or one of even the top three, he had an incredible pro day and he has pretty good film. So I think the hype along, around all of that, plus the Cardinals really do need some secondary help. They get J.C. Horn. He is a good prospect. He had an incredible pro day, so he is a very, very athletic. Yeah, I agree. It's tackling. Yeah, maybe trade down and get Gregory Newsome from Northwestern or Najee. That would make sense, but I just think with the hype around J.C. Horn and everything like that, and it fills a need for them, it just makes too much sense for a team instead of trading back. I usually don't really see trade backs usually between like picks 11 and 20. Usually you see those either trade ups or just staying put. Cardinals need a corner. J.C. Horn's available. Had an incredible pro day. Had a good film. That's where he ends up going, I think. Las Vegas Raiders have been trying to figure it out at linebacker for the last couple of years in John Gruden's system and who he likes and what he wants to do. I think Jeremiah out of Notre Dame is a perfect pick for them because I think he is a coverage linebacker who won the Butkus Award for the best linebacker in the country. And I think rightfully so because I think he's a great offense or great all-around linebacker. I just think he's too much like prospect to pass up. So I think it was a perfect fit for the Raiders. Then we move on to the Miami Dolphins. Jalen Phillips, who has been rising up boards lately with his edge rush ability and everything. And he is unbelievable. I mean, he's 22 years old, 6'5", 240. He's kind of got a little bit of everything. Speed rusher, power rusher. He can kind of do it all. He's super athletic. He's got a really high ceiling. I think he's a great prospect, and I think he's one of those guys that's going to make a lot of noise. So the Miami Dolphins get Jamar Chase on the offense, and now I think that they upgrade their defense. Todd Bowles loves his defense. They were a really good defense last year. They just need a little bit of edge help, and so I think they get that in a perfect prospect for them in Jalen Phillips. Next, Washington, otherwise known as the Washington football team, end up drafting a tackle. So they need a left tackle. They have a right tackle already in place. They have a guard and sheriff already in place. They have two quarterbacks who I guess are going to battle it out. We'll see. I mean, Fitzpatrick and Heineke. That'd be interesting. I mean, I don't know exactly what they're doing. I think there's no quarterbacks available, and I haven't heard anything about them trading up. So to me, fill a need to help them get a quarterback maybe next year is getting Christian Darrisaw, who is the next best left tackle available. Huge dude who's going to be an anchor on that offensive line. So that just makes the most sense to hit there. And now I did like him for the Bears, but I think because of the way that the Bears have done this offseason and the cuts they've made, I think Tevin Jenkins on the offensive line is a really, really, really good right tackle. Makes the most sense to me to step in at right tackle there. Now, I know that they signed Ifedi and I know that they signed Elijah Wilkinson as right tackles, but both of those guys could also slot in at guard. And so you could be looking at an offensive line that maybe has your left tackle would be Leno, your left guard would be Whitehair or Daniels, probably most likely Daniels. Center would be Whitehair. Your right guard would be maybe Ifedi or Wilkinson, whichever one wins the position. And then you have Tevin Jenkins right there. Now, they may bring back Mustapher too. That could be an option potentially and have him start at center. I think he earned it, so I would like him to see there. But I think Tevin Jenkins makes the most sense here because the left tackles, Christian Darrisaw and stuff like that I would have liked to go here, as well as maybe quarterbacks or whatever else you might want to say. I think this makes the most sense. Now, I have seen mocks where there's like Elijah Wilson or what's his name? Elijah starts with a W, wide receiver who's a slot guy, and maybe the Bears pick a slot receiver because they're trying to trade Anthony Miller right now. Maybe that would make sense, but I just think that getting a slot receiver in the first round seems a little too iffy when you have so much offensive line issues. And quarterback's not available, and you're trying to make it work with Andy Dalton, I guess. So here they get Tevin Jenkins, who's a really, really solid right tackle.
Right.
So.
Okay. Very interesting.
All right.
Had not heard of him before until now.
Yeah, getting into the last half, and the teams that are good teams that just need a couple pieces here and there. The Indianapolis Colts didn't do a lot to inspire confidence in their wide receiving core. Yeah, they did get they brought back T.Y. They have Michael Pittman, and yes, they did bring in Watkins.
Right.
They did bring in Watkins, yeah, but I don't feel confident in Michael Pittman and Watkins being my number 1 and 2 wide receivers. So go out and get Rashad Bateman, who a lot of people thought was one of the top receivers in the draft early on in the draft, and then Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Waddle with the speed. But I think Rashad Bateman gets a little overshadowed, so I think he would be a great pick right here. 6'2", so he definitely has number 1, number 2 type of ability to step into that offense. So I think that, and the Colts are sitting pretty in a position where they don't need a lot at all. They think they have their quarterback. They have a good running back core. They have a great offensive line. They have a good defense. They really don't need anything. So get a luxury pick in Rashad Bateman, who might work out really well for you at wide receiver. Tennessee Titans lost Adoree Jackson. They lost Malcolm Butler as they cut him. So they really are desperate at secondary. They haven't done anything really to upgrade it or to really kind of bolster the secondary in the number 1, number 2 positions in their secondary. So I think Caleb Farley makes the most sense here. He fell a little bit in this mock over my previous ones, just because there's been a lot of injury concerns that's propping up a lot more in his kind of hype. Is the initial hype of Caleb Farley was super high, and he was, again, in my mocks, he was gone off the board much higher than 22. But I think he falls because there's been a lot more issues lately popping up around his injury history and things like that. So that always plays a factor, and you kind of have to read in between the lines, because when you start hearing that kind of stuff, it usually is coming from somewhere, and it's usually coming from scouts and people that are making the decisions to draft these guys. So that makes sense there. And then the New York Jets, the next pick, they drafted Zach Wilson to be their quarterback. Now there's not really, they could go with a running back here, Najee Harris or Travis Etienne. I think they end up just going with one of the best pure pass rushers in the draft. If you walk away from this draft with Zach Wilson and Gregory Rousseau, you've had a great draft, because you've gotten your starting quarterback for the future, and then you've got your starting pass rusher who's going to be the anchor of your defense for the next 5 to 10 years on both sides of the ball. So that would be a great draft, and I think that's where they end up going there. Pittsburgh Steelers need offensive line help. Everybody's retiring. Everybody's leaving. They're trying to run it back with Big Ben and Juju. They need offensive line help badly, and Samuel Cosmi is the next best available tackle, who I don't think, I think Samuel Cosmi has first round potential, and so that's why I think he's the only one basically available for the Steelers. The Jacksonville Jaguars have the next pick, and this is coming from the Jalen Ramsey trade. And I think they go Trevon Moehrig here. They got their quarterback again in Trevor Lawrence. And you kind of saw this previously with the Dolphins and the Jets, where they went offense and then are going defense. Same thing here. Go offense with Trevor Lawrence. Go defense with your second pick, addressing another need. They need safety help. They did just sign a safety, do a nice deal, but they need another, strong safety to go along with them. And Trevon Moehrig is the best safety in this draft, so I think that makes the most sense as far as fits go, and as far as best available fitting a need goes for that team.
Boom, boom, boom.
All right, then we're finishing out the draft, getting towards the very end. Cleveland Browns. I think they are looking for an edge rusher to pair with. Names are escaping me.
Myles Garrett.
They need a pass rusher to pair with Myles Garrett, but they need one to also complement Myles Garrett's game, which is more of a power pass rushing. So they go with Azeez here, who is more of a speed rusher out of Georgia. So that makes more sense to me. Pairing those two together finally gets hopefully a compliment to Myles Garrett on that defensive line. Again, this is another team that was really good and has a lot of potential everywhere, and injuries kind of held some of that secondary back. They did bring in Johnson, who's going to be an unbelievable upgrade to that secondary. So I think it makes sense for me to pair a good pass rusher in the draft with Myles Garrett and move forward with that team. Baltimore Ravens are the next team. They need edge rush help. Again, another team that, as we get closer to the top, you kind of see these teams that really don't need a lot, but need specific type of groups. Jason Owa is a guy that I've seen actually mocked to them a couple different times. I think it just makes sense to me, because I think all the pass rushers above that are gone leads them to basically take the next best available pass rusher. May not be the best talented, may not even be a first-time talent, but edge rush is so crucial and so important, and they need it. So it makes sense for them to go with Jason Owa here. And then the New Orleans Saints are going through a transition period where, maybe it works out with Hill and the quarter. Names are really killing me. Maybe it works out with Hill and their who's the other quarterback that they signed? Jameis Winston. So maybe it works out with them. Who knows? But I think they're going through a rebuild, and I think they need a lot. I think in my last mock, I had them taking a linebacker who kind of did everything. This time around, I think that they go with Greg Newsome. They just lost Janoris Jenkins. They needed a corner to pair next to Marshawn Lattimore. Greg Newsome, to me, feels like more of a number 2 corner in the league, which is good because this is a great spot for him then to go because he gets to pair next to Marshawn Lattimore and you get 2 young corners to bolster that secondary, which was kind of a little bit low. Now they do need some pass rush help because they lost Hendrickson, and he was literally their leading sacker last year. But I think just there's no pass rush available that intrigues them, so they go with a corner, which is a need. Packers lose Lindsey. I don't know how they lost Lindsey or why they lost him. Just money. I don't know. Whatever is the issue. But they get Landon Dickerson here, who's the best center available that replaces Lindsey and gets, Aaron Rodgers finally some kind of help in the form of protection or receiving core, whatever skilled position. They haven't done anything for him in the last few years. So finally him getting something. Of course, it's kind of a replacement for a guy that they let go that was already helpful. So, you're basically breaking even, I guess, with Landon Dickerson here. But that makes the most sense to me to replace him at center. Buffalo Bills, again, we just talked all about how edge rush is such a crucial thing for teams. And there's not a lot of good edge rushers back. But guess what? The Buffalo Bills almost made it to the Super Bowl last year. They're a team that really doesn't need a lot. Maybe they just need to put it together and have another year of coaching and experience working together. Maybe that's all it takes. But either way, they needed edge rush help desperately. That's something that was probably the worst part of their team last year. And literally the next best available, who's more of a second round talent. But again, there's a run on pass rush, as there is every year, and they need it. So they go with Joe Tryon here, who will hopefully contribute enough to put them over the top and get them into the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then your final 2 picks, which 2 Super Bowl teams, this is kind of a luxury, picks for here. Not any tackles here that I thought made incredible sense for them. Like if a tackle like a Cosme was available, that would make sense. I think that they needed tackle help because they've addressed guard, obviously, with the signing of Kyle Long and the signing of Joe Thuney, who's going to really help with that interior. They got rid of both their tackles, though, so they need tackles desperately. And if they potentially are going to stretch Kyle Long to a right tackle position instead of right guard, then they need left tackle no matter what. And protect Patrick Mahomes. It was unbelievably apparent that they needed to last year. They go and get the next best tackle, in my opinion, Liam Eichenberg out of Notre Dame. He's, again, early second round grade on him probably, but they need it. And it's at this point you're pulling hairs for just what can we get that'll add to the team. And again, that's how I feel with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here in the next pick. To finish out my mock, Elijah Moore, who is probably the best slot receiver in the draft. Rondell Moore has been rising up boards, and I love his athleticism. I love his his just ability overall to be a weapon in the slot. But I think that Elijah Moore has better health history, staying healthy, and is an incredible slot as well. So I think he makes the most sense here. They brought back all 22 players, but what they didn't bring back was Antonio Brown. Where did Antonio Brown play? The slot. Where do they need then? The slot. So to me, that makes the most sense. Get a very quick speedster, good slot receiver to finally just round out that entire offense defense that's going to be incredible. And again, probably going to be in the Super Bowl next year, most likely.
Yeah. Okay.
So. All right.
Boom. Unless you have anything else to add, sports are over. We covered most of that stuff, unless you wanted to go into baseball. Otherwise, we can move on to entertainment media trailer stuff to finish off
fine.
on.
We'll move on to the media stuff. We can do baseball next week when there's we're another week into the season. But yes, let's
start
go
into Mortal Kombat.
A little bit of a flash through all of them. But yes, there was a couple trailers for a couple different projects that I'm excited about that came out, and you're excited about it too. So let's talk about it. So you want to start with obviously the Mortal Kombat one that's right there. The Mortal Kombat trailer actually looks pretty interesting. I was really surprised. So I'm actually going to have it playing off screen so we can kind of talk about it as I go. But yeah, I was actually really surprised by the trailer. It looked like somebody actually took the concept and put enough into it to make it interesting and make it like entertaining. So like the whole like the actual CGI, some of that looks interesting. Like I love how they do some of the characters with like Sub-Zero being like absolutely terrifying and like causing Jax to become Jax is awesome. I mean Liu Kang is interesting because he's not really like a main part of this trailer, but like he was in the whole series, so that's kind of interesting. But I do love how they use Scorpion in this. I love how they use literally all of them. I mean, just Raiden makes an appearance. Yeah, it looks interesting to watch it. I mean, some of the matchups is gonna be so fun to see, especially how they do it with all the CGI and everything they're able to do nowadays. This whole sequence right here, which I'm watching the trailer, like I said, of the guy who's playing Scorpion using the freaking spear on a rope is incredible. I didn't think it was going to be as practical as it was.
Yeah,
like it was really surprising, honestly. How are you feeling watching this?
I was actually trying to see. I see some people like have it actually up. I guess not even just now, but in the future or whatever. It seems like you're able to actually watch it as long as you're discussing it. In terms of the actual movie, I mean, I played like Mortal Kombat a little bit, so I'm a little bit familiar with it. So I'm not as in depth with it, but it seems like they actually took more time to go into production value and to just like CGI the shit out of everything. I'm sure they did. I'm just saying it's better. It's harder to notice. It's not like blurry and looks terrible, and they just like are filling things in with like video game assets. So it looks like they actually tried, which is cool. It looks more entertaining to a casual viewer, and you could tell it's not like your cash cow video game movie. At least now, from a 2-minute trailer, it doesn't look like that.
Yeah, and I like, oh my god, some of the shots in this freaking thing are incredible. Like the shot, I told you this before we started the podcast. The shot of freaking Sub-Zero, cutting Scorpion and then pulling the blood out of the air and freezing it along with the water droplets around it and then using it as a spear to stab him. Unbelievable. Yeah. That's an incredible usage of the character. Like kudos to whoever decided that was going to be in the movie, because that was incredible. And that was like, to me, that was like the money shot of the trailer, and that's what like sold me on this. Is like, okay, we're making this legit. Like you have to obviously just like get rid of all those like notions of like, oh, it's Mortal Kombat, so like it's, oh, this movie's not very realistic. It's like, okay, well, it's Mortal Kombat. We're not talking about realism. Once you get past that, holy shit, did you see him freeze blood out of the air and stab a dude? Like that's wild. Like that's great. I'm all for it.
All right, I'm just gonna we'll figure it out if you're able to or not. I just want to specifically bring up that shot because it's too much to not reference with it.
No, I agree. It's right here. Look at there it is. Yeah, right here. Oh my god, it's incredible. It looks smooth. Like it's just so good. It's so good. I'm just so like I'm actually excited. Like I'm actually like I have a genuine smile on my face because like I grew up playing Mortal Kombat and like I don't remember all the names of the freaking characters. Like cut me some slack here, but holy crap, I'm excited for this. I actually like I love when like video game movies are actually legit. And just some of these shots, man. Kano right there with the freaking eye. Like the spear, that's amazing. That looked way more practical than I ever thought it would look on actual, live, play or whatever. Awesome, just all around awesome. I'm excited for it. Everything about it looks great.
Even the hand looks good too.
Yeah,
there's just there's a couple of small things that stick out that you could just tell and feel that they could have cheaped out on that they didn't.
Oh, that right there.
Yeah, that was pretty good too.
I forgot what her name is, but yeah, that's amazing. And just everything about it. Yeah, it's just so exciting. It's so exciting to see a movie that is finally like would be such a cool concept to watch in this CGI, and to finally see it actually be put not realistically, but like to the best possible ability. And I really hope that this is like how we're not just seeing like the best bits. I really hope that this is like kind of the whole movie's basically the way the whole movie goes. But like I just love it. Like the choreography looks good between the fighting. Like none of it looks actually like stupid or unrealistic or like dumb. Like
Yeah.
even that looks practical with him shooting the freaking spear out of his arm. That's amazing. Like that looked great. That looked actually practical. Like the way that you saw his arm like buckle when the spear like that's awesome. Like that. If something looks too smooth like that, then it feels too fake and like very like too video game-ish. But
Yeah.
like seeing that realism there, like seeing them fighting, like is awesome. And I love the whole like, you know how in the movie, like in the game, it's always like finish him or whatever. I love how like instead they look at it as like a like finish him kind of thing between like the guy who's moderating the fight like is saying like finish him, like kind of how they did in the Gladiator days where it was like a thumbs down or a thumbs up. Like,
Yeah,
I love
this
that
comes out in like a
aspect.
week.
Are you serious?
Yeah, April 16th and on HBO Max if it's the same time,
No
which it has
extra
been.
cost. Oh my freaking god.
I had no idea that was coming out this soon. Unless they're doing a thing where like they release it first in theaters, but I don't think so.
I'm blown away.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
no,
Yeah,
look
that's
at
coming at
available
you
on
way
HBO
quicker.
Max for 31 days from the theatrical release. Holy crap. That's amazing. We're watching that. I'm freaking watching that.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that's amazing. I can't wait. And that's the weekend I'm going up to visit Alyssa too, so we're gonna watch that. I'm gonna make her watch that movie.
Perfect. That works out great.
So
Okay.
all right, okay. Done with Mortal Kombat. Love the movie, can't wait. Space Jam. How do we feel about it?
Like the concept of like saying it out loud is really funny, stupid, because like the whole thing is like he's trying to steal his son's like Instagram followers, like Don Cheadle, whatever he's supposed to be. And I'll stop it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It kind of just makes me laugh, but also it's a Space Jam movie, so whatever. I don't know. I think when I watched, I was kind of like, this will be kind of funny and memey. That's about it.
That's not what I want.
Yeah.
Dad.
No,
You never let me
like
do
I
what
enjoy
want.
it. Like
You never let me just
I enjoy the fun
do
around
me.
it. Like I understand that like it's I understand it's a movie. I understand that like it's like it's not supposed to be taken realistic. Obviously, it's literally the freaking Looney Tunes. And it's playing more on like your nostalgia and all that and like everything and like, hey, remember how good Space Jam 1 was? Like you want more of that, like here we go. The only thing I don't like is, and I don't even mind LeBron being in it. That's fine, whatever. He's the best player in the league and has been for the last 20 years. It's fine being him being in the movie. I'm totally okay with it. My only biggest problem with this movie is everything up until they go into like the new 3D like graphics is good, and then when they go into that, I'm just not sold on it.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I have
didn't
to
like
see
that
it.
that's what they went to. It was like the replacement. Like this looks like it would have been pretty
This
funny.
is awesome. Like this is fun. I love
And
that.
and they're like it's like almost an homage to like the first Space Jam and stuff, but it's I'm not that's probably my least favorite part too, is they really like doubled down on like the digital like that look.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been maybe I don't know, maybe more of the movie is in that style. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It could be. I don't know. It depends on what they do with it and who's actually in it. They didn't really spoil any like the cameos or anything other than like actual characters already established. So I guess it could be anything. Like
Well,
Iron
and
Giant.
it's funny because if you actually watch, I saw one thing that made me laugh, and it was like in one of the shots, you can see the people from Clockwork Orange behind it, and people were like, "How the hell is like certain things getting canceled in our current world, but like Clockwork Orange like isn't in the
What
background?"
is that? I'm not familiar.
The movie?
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's one of those movies that everybody tells you have to see. I love that freaking shot, by the way. I love that freaking shot. If you can go back, I don't know if you caught this in the actual trailer. Do you remember that famous photo of? Pause it for a second. Go Google. Look up the photo. Dwayne Wade alley-oop to LeBron. Look at this photo. So this is the iconic photo where he threw an oop to LeBron and then he just like did that, and it was just awesome. It's just one of the greatest photos ever taken in a sports setting ever, because it's fantastic. It's so perfect. It's such a great photo. And then so see the photo now, have that in your head, and then watch this part of the trailer. And I love it. I love that little stuff like that, little fanfare. See, see, they had her look to the camera, do that, and wink. That's amazing. That's my favorite shot in the whole trailer. I freaking love that. It's like I'm definitely gonna watch this movie, and I'm definitely gonna be happy about it. I just don't like that. I don't like how it looks right here.
Yeah.
Like I love Dame. He's one of my favorite players in the entire league. I just don't know how he looks, and like I don't like how they made the people look in this. I just don't like that art style. You know, maybe the movie's great, and that takes to, you know, that does it for me. I don't know.
Wow, that's July 16th as well too. That's not really that far away either. They're really just pumping these out.
HBO. Dude, thank God we have HBO Max. I can watch all this stuff.
Yeah, that is nice. I got that for free for my internet for this year. So getting some really good use out of it still. Still to go. But yeah, I don't know. It could I'm still gonna watch it, just whatever. I just don't know. This look. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know about the 3D look. I think it'll be fun because I think you can I think I think they were trying to go for rewatchability in this part because you can see all the people in the crowd and you can probably pick out different things every time you watch it. You know, it's just God, that shot does it for me though. Same with the Mortal Kombat thing, like that shot right there does it for me. Like I want to watch. Like I see that and then I go, yep, that's it. It's right up my alley.
Yeah.
Give me Space Jam 2.
Yeah.
So all right.
But yeah, that's that.
All right, so moving on to the final trailer of our conversation, which is the Loki trailer. I don't know about you. We kind of talked a little bit about it. This trailer was everything I wanted out of the show Loki. Like it's literally, I cannot emphasize how much I enjoyed watching this trailer and how excited I am for the direction of the show having watched it.
Especially having WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier preceding it. Like I feel like those are good so far. I only watched 2 episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I think they know what they're doing with these. It actually, like, in making them like mini movies that are just like pretty long, I feel like it's actually gonna work out for them pretty well too, because it gives them like exposition and gets them like, they literally just like, okay, people don't want Loki to die, so let's just find out an alternative timeline where he's still alive and then make a 6-hour TV series out of it. At least I think it's 6. It's just funny how they keep on finding ways to still do it if people want it. And eventually when they do that with like characters, or they already did it with characters like Wanda, that'll add into other movies with that background context. It's the same thing they've been doing for like 20 years, except this is just longer and a little bit smarter, instead of wasting, or not like wasting a movie, but just finding a different way of doing it. It just gives context to people who actually want more, and whenever the movie is coming forward, come out, it'll just mean more. People will care about it more.
Yeah.
Just build on their monopoly and just make it even better.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
I agree. Yeah, for me, what Marvel has done, and I've talked about this before with like Alyssa and my family even, if you take a step back from just being a superhero fan and enjoying Marvel, if you take a step back and you look at this, it is historic and incredible what Marvel's able to do with all this. Like the amount of stuff that is just being pumped out by Marvel year after year, show after show, movie after movie. I mean, we're like what, 21 movies deep, 3 shows deep already, and we can't get enough of it. We're just like, give me more of this. I want to see this. I want to see more of all of this.
And to be fair, we did have a year off for the first time in like 10 years, so that's a big part of it too. There was that big break with Endgame, and then Captain Marvel. Everyone went to go see that because they wanted to figure out what was going to go into Endgame. I mean, like, they played it well. They never put you in a place where you're like exhausted of watching.
And what was beautiful about it is Spider-Man Far From Home wrapped it up beautifully, where you got like that post, okay, like everybody has questions about how Endgame affected the universe and everything around it. Spider-Man Far From Home showed that. And then you got to just like, it gave you that closure. It gave you like that, like, okay, Iron Man is really gone. Like, he is really gone. And how is the world dealing with this? As well as how is the world dealing with the blip and all that, is what they call it. And so that show, or that movie, really wrapped it up nicely. And then having this year off actually played perfectly, because they were going to roll out Black Widow not long after it. But I think this time off has given them an unbelievable reset on the whole Marvel universe, because now you've finished everything, you're done watching all of that stuff, you've had time to let it sit and marinate, and now you come back and you go, you know what, I want more Marvel stuff, I'm ready, I'm excited, I want the next sequence of Marvel to happen. And then bam, they hit you with WandaVision, bam, they hit you with Captain and Falcon, or not, Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Then they hit you with Loki. Then they're going to hit you with the Black Widow. So you get a little bit of nostalgia from the previous with Black Widow, and hopefully a good movie. And then, you roll right into the next sequence where hopefully in this next whole massive thing that they're doing, they're bringing in the X-Men, Deadpool's becoming one. They're bringing Blade back. They're having the Punisher, the Punisher and Daredevil hopefully are coming back. I know Daredevil's rumored to reprise his role in the new Spider-Man movie, so all of that's super exciting. And it's one of those where, like you said, it's a palate cleanser for that year, where now I'm ready. And I, looking at this too, like, everybody loved Loki, and just like you said, they tried to figure out a new way to use him, and I think they did it perfectly. I think they building a show around him being kind of the hero, because that's what his character evolution was throughout the whole show, was him going from being this guy who just wanted to be powerful and rule, to then like helping basically restart after Ragnarok, and then so much so to the point where he was willing to die for Thor, and try to kill Thanos. That like he had that character arc where now, like, seeing him in this setting as a hero is so much more believable than it would be if you looked at if this show came out initially after the first movie, because we've seen that character arc go, and now this is just a continuation of it, and I'm excited for it.
Well, don't forget too, the important part of this too is that this is the 2012 Loki. He hasn't had his character arc play out. Like, essentially the direction that he'd be going into, because you've technically seen the future or whatever, but still, like, none of that stuff happened here. This is like from the end of Avengers and then going forward. Obviously the same person and everything, but that's also just kind of a fun part of it too. They could take that where they like.
Yeah, but I feel like they've already, like, because it's already been built there in place and it's already happened in our vision, our viewing. I think that basically you can assume that that's how they're treating the character, as if, like, yeah, he technically hasn't had this character arc, but, like,
sure,
technically he has in your vision already of him. So I feel like that's going to play more into this.
And, like, another thing is, first of all, I think Owen Wilson's going to be perfect for that, just from the couple of lines they've given him regardless. But the biggest difference with these is that there's, like, no distinguishable difference between this and, like, a feature length movie now, with the way that they're treating, like, these series and putting them out. I mean, like, all the time that they're spending on, like, well, first of all, like, special effects. Now they've even gotten A-list actors, because they used to not be able to do that in TV shows because they wouldn't be attracted to it. But I mean, it's like more of a reflection on everything else that's going on as a whole with different streaming services and everything. It's just that, like, there's no difference to this, because it's also giving you more context and more time to kind of digest an entire movie, instead of just sitting down in 2 hours and then done. You get 1 hour and do like 8 episodes or whatever. And it just seems more rewarding. But I mean, the final piece of the puzzle was getting A-tier actors to keep on starring in series like this, and not reserve them only for movies. And you got, like, these Sideshow Bob type of characters no one really cares about, but they do their best. So now they've got this together. These are like 6-hour movies, and that's kind of it. There's no big difference. They're the same. They're one and the same now. And TV isn't going to be like 30-minute sitcoms. It's not going to ever go back to that, I don't think. I think it's still going to exist, but this is what the expectation is going forward, because this is your competition.
Well, and the other thing too is that Marvel has cracked the code, and has for the last 12 years, has cracked the code really into how to make an action movie series, whatever it may be, also have enough sprinkled in of comedy, emotion, sadness, love, all that beautifully sprinkled in to make a movie, or a show in this case. And that's why, like, you see, like, that little sequence where he, gets dropped into that thing and then says, "This is absurd," and then it prints out another document. Like, it's not in your face, like, hey, laugh at this joke. But it's like putting it in a situation where it's like, oh, that's pretty funny. Like, you know, it like gives you a laugh, but then like you realize that the series overall is very serious and like action packed. But like you see stuff like that right there, like him sitting in his crown, standing there in a suit, you know, or him like winking. Like you get these fun moments, like, or this right here, like this sequence right here, like, yeah, like this doesn't feel forced. Like it doesn't feel like it's, you know, fake, or like him doing that right there. Like that makes me laugh. I don't even know, like I can't, like he didn't even have to talk. Like I don't even have to hear audio and see that, and I can just laugh because I just know that like that's what it is. But it's just they've just done a perfect job of making a movie that's action packed but has some of the emotions and things you want to see in other movies, and also adding in a comedy element that doesn't feel forced and is perfectly timed.
Yeah.
So
I agree. All right, well, that's pretty much all of our topics that we got to, I guess.
yeah, that's everything. I mean, that's, you know, like I said, we would talk a little bit more baseball, but we could always do that next time. Baseball season's obviously going to be on for quite a while, but so, you know, if you're a baseball fan and you're listening, or if you're listening to this on our YouTube channel or wherever it may be, yeah, baseball will be talked about a bit more as the season goes on. I'm a huge baseball fan. I actually wore this in order to talk, you know, in order basically to kind of highlight the baseball season has just started, and I love baseball and love going to games, so we'll definitely talk more about that throughout the season. But yeah, we kind of got through everything that we wanted to talk about. That's everything I wanted to mention. Is there anything you want to add before we sign off?
No, that's pretty much it. I think I got to everything.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, everybody that's still here or listening, like I said, on YouTube or wherever it may be, thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us a listen. If you will follow us over on YouTube, we're at YouTube and the Dylan Podcast. If you want to follow us also on Twitter, I will be a little bit more active on there, utilizing that. We'll also be tweeting out when those clips and videos from our podcast get uploaded. So you can go ahead and follow us at the Dylan and Dill 1. So that is spelled out the Dylan and Dill DYL1 on Twitter.
Oh, yeah. All right, I will go ahead and sign off.
All right. Thank you and good night.
Good